live on. Are the windows there closed? Close everything, please. And the other one, sir. Okay, well, is anybody there? Okay, Ebony is here. Ebony Iwori. Okay, we are waiting for Facebook to be on. Waiting for Facebook to be on. So, we are waiting for Facebook. We don't know if anybody is going to. Sorry guys, I don't know. Is anybody there on YouTube? Okay, Ebony is here. OC Adi is here. Busi, Kilo Busi is here. Okay, I think we are on Facebook now. Hello everybody, you are ready for today? Okay, let me quickly welcome a few people from Facebook and then we'll be ready to start our conversation. Okay, so I'm going to welcome people on Facebook. Oh, we have people on Facebook already. Mary Odia, Abraham, Aruna, David Obina, Pierre Elvinson, Mango, Ufuoma, Joyce, Joanne, Rachel, Christian Al, Temi, Adewale Jones, Oluwole Femi, Babatunde Ayodeji, Ojekwa Israel, Mbero, Mona Lisa, Shao Smith, Emmanuel Ikoto. Welcome everybody. Well, I think please go and share the message with your friends. Go and share the message with everyone you know, go and tag your friends, go and invite them, and we will be ready to start the conversation with we call it conversation with an atheist, conversation with an atheist, even though Innocent said it's an agnostic, he's agnostic, he's not an atheist, but I'm sure a lot of atheists are on the platform who are not just agnostics, but atheists as well. So, yeah. So, but I would like to say that, first of all, the conversation we had the last time was very encouraging to a lot of people. As a matter of fact, I discovered that a lot of Nigerian youth are turning, and African youth are turning to atheism from Christianity because of the disappointment they have faced in their various Christian churches. But what is even more alarming is the fact that a lot of people who are active in churches actually don't believe in God. So people are active in churches, they come to church, and they don't believe in God. They have doubts and questions to God. So that is strange and very unusual. So many of them have written to me that the conversation with an atheist and the questions that we're answering has been a blessing to them in that sense. So right now, I'm going to hand over the platform to the host and the questionnaire and the person who is representing all these young people, especially from the African continent, in regards to faith and Christianity, Innocent Magaji. Here you go. The ball is on your court.
All right. Thank you so much once again. Good evening to everyone that's listening to us, and good evening to everyone that will watch later. Thank you for organizing this thing. It's very, very important to me. The last conversation we had was fantastic. I had a return from both Christian and from atheists and from agnostics too. So it was really, really interesting watching their reaction and hearing their reaction, the messages they sent. I got some mixed feelings, encouraging messages from Christian, and then some critics from both atheists. Some of them thought I was misrepresenting the ideology. But what they didn't know is that I have an agenda myself. The reason why I organize this is something totally different. First of all, I recognize your position as a leader. I also recognize your influence on other people's life. A lot of positive things you did to change family, to reconcile them from drugs and all those things. So my aim is not to come and challenge you or to make sure that I found out that you know all the history about human history, the world and Africa and everything. Or my aim is not to validate atheism. I discovered that, like I said in the previous videos, that you are not seeking to indoctrinate people. You simply want to teach them how to think. So that's the reason why I was motivated to organize this. And I'm not here to debate or to challenge you. I only want to help promote the idea through your platform, through your influence, for people to use their mind to think, to ask questions. And to those atheists who think I misrepresented them, there are angles at which I am looking at things as an African atheist. I believe there are certain things, certain values we need to hold dearly into our heart. That is African values. And I also understand that you wrote a book. It's called The Danger of Monoculturalism, I think that is. So I understand that one is it's not a charming thing to have just a myopic view. You can't just close your mind and say, yes, we are Africans, let's protect ourselves, let's reject anything that is Western. No, my objective is for us to value certain African values, place them above. My objective is to help Africans to make sure that we bring that African value, the Western value. What I mean by this is that progressive values, anything at all that will help the development of humanity, that will help the development of Africa, no matter what it is, even if it's from Asia, we're supposed to put it into our culture. We're not supposed to close that gap. We're not supposed to close our mind. So I'm appealing to the atheists that are listening to me. Like I said in the previous video, DSA, this is just one phase you're seeing. This is just religious talk. But he has projects, he has plans and things that can develop Africa. And you go and read about the things he has done and change a lot of life. So don't come with your anger, don't come with your frustration, don't come with emotions. I read some of the comments you left. Some people were insulted. Some people were, there's no constructive argument. I received your email this morning. you said in your email that we shouldn't just present argument through emotions. And I also realized that yesterday you had a presentation, and I saw that a lot of people were very emotional about it, but they don't know the burden you are carrying in your mind. You hold a lot of burden for Africa. And me personally, I will not trust the Bible, the God of the Bible, but I can put my life into your hand, travel to Mars and come back. And I believe, because I can see through your heart, I can see through your spirit, I can see through your mind, I can see the skeleton of your spirit, that everything you say, everything you do is driven by you want to do good to humanity. You're not interested in collecting people's money or to scam them or to do anything evil to them. You're only interested in the progress of Africa, and you're interested in developing people's minds. So people need to identify this quality about you, and they need to respect it. So don't just come with your mind, don't just come with the argument, don't just come because yes. No, none of us have the monopoly of truth. I personally, I don't believe that I will remain an agnostic if I found out that Christianity will be of a positive advantage to Africa. If we can use Christianity today to develop Africa to the highest level, I'm never willing to lay my life for that. So you have to understand that holding just one single position and be myopic and be emotional about your argument will not help anything. It won't help us to progress. So my objective today is to help people through your platform, through your influence, to be able to use their mind to think. Question the Bible, read the history of the Bible. Is very important. Consider your history, African history. Consider science. Don't close your mind. Don't just say, hey, I'm a Christian. I've known everything about the world already. I used to think like that when I was a Christian. I was very radical. I thought, hey, I know everything already. The Bible, no, tell me everything about it. When I started studying science, I started reading history. I discovered that my head was empty like a coconut. There was nothing inside, So don't just close your mind. Open your mind to knowledge. So this is the objective of my meeting, and this is just my simple opinion. So for those that are atheists, don't come angry. Just listen patiently, come and see, and go ahead and study things about DSA to understand where he's coming from, understand his objective and my personal objective. Like I said, let's not come with a closed mind. Anything can change, and I trust you to do that. Those that are atheists, I believe that atheists, they work with evidence. Once they see something is convincing, they change their mind. They don't. Science, that is the beauty of science. It keeps evolving. It doesn't just close like that and say, hey, let's just believe in evolution, and then what new evidence come out, and then we say, oh, okay, we're not going to accept the new evidence. No, we work with evidence. So use that value, use it to your advantage. You're already taking the first step to the program of DSA by dropping superstition. First of all, you don't believe in witchcraft, which is something that's eating Africa seriously. So it's a very beautiful step you have taken. So right now, all we need to do is to inculcate this value into people, to teach people how to think, how to challenge this idea in their mind. So in our previous conversation, we had a series of 5 questions that we addressed, which is the spiritual aspect. You addressed already on that. So you go back, you check the previous video and see what we have talked, the topic we discussed, to help yourself, to educate yourself. And the second aspect we're going to talk about today is about the cultural aspect. So I deliberately choose this aspect because I know that these are questions that Africans are asking. Well, atheism is a personal journey. Nobody leads you to. There's no doctrine to follow. You go your way. You just learn things just like that through reading and everything, through research. So I'm giving my personal experience as an African, the things I learned, the things I went through. I understand what it means to have a myopic mindset, to have a close cultural mindset. So right now, my mind is open to everything that is coming, any knowledge. So right now, there is a cultural aspect that we're going to look into right now. So the number one question that is here is this. There is this African culture, this deity. I gave you the example of the green snake last time, the thief green snake. The story was short in a little bit, but I didn't went into details to explain why and how that snake is being venerated today. They say that snake, the green snake, formed a bridge for the thief people to cross to the other side of the bridge. So for that reason, till today, the green snake in the thief land,
you have to start all over, because there are some new people who didn't hear that part of the snake last time.
All right, okay. So the folklore is the thief folklore that explains that the thief people were living. They were migrating from the east, which soi-disant, they say, from Egypt.
The argument is that we cannot believe the account of the Bible of creation because that is just Jewish account. That there are other nations, other nationalities that have their own account of creation as well. And for example, the Thief people. So we can continue, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so the Thief people, they have their own folklore. So they migrated from the east. They came down to Africa. So for the reason that snake helped them to cross over the bridge, they don't kill the snake till today. So they value this snake, they venerate them, they don't kill them. So these snakes now, and these snakes are harmless. They don't do, you see a very beautiful gray snake on the leaf like that, you just see it, it don't even run, it will just remain and be looking at you. So thousands of them, you cannot walk the distance, just 2 to 5 kilometers, you see them. And they cohabit with humans peacefully, they don't kill them. Another example too is in the Umuhi village. I made a post recently on Facebook about monitor lizard, a very big lizard, and a python. So these people, they came in, they see these animals, they venerate them a lot, they don't kill them. So this is one aspect of African culture that has to do with superstition. They will tell you that if you kill one of those monitor lizards or you kill the python, apparently you see a python, it will come into the house, it will see children, it will not even harm them. It will just be there. And since the people, they don't harm them, they just walk and they go their way. So if you kill one, you'll be urged to perform a burial rite, a ritual that you will bury that lizard or that python with a casket, with a human casket. So you have to pay a huge amount of money, organize ceremonies, do local beer, and then invite people to drink and cook for people. So a burial, what? Human life. So these are values, these are African values. And what is the advantage of this value? The advantage is that it helps protect the ecosystem. It helps preserve these animals that are being menaced. So I realized that in Europe, the only thing that protects these animals are the law. They have law in Europe that protect animals. You don't kill them. You don't see the snake and just start hitting them or see animals and just start shooting them. You'll be arrested and all those things. And also in Africa, we don't have those laws. So the only thing that protect animals are the customs that we have. And those customs works with superstition because it's already conditioned in the mind of the people. They preserve, they respect these customs with all of their heart. So my question is that with the advent of Christianity in Africa currently, these customs are being destroyed. Many people accepted Christianity. Now the custom is they no longer see value in these customs again. So instead, what they turn to destroy the custom. They turn to abandon this belief, and then the next thing they start killing these animals, and then the next thing the ecosystem is destroyed, and we don't have anything. The same principles apply to certain trees in Africa, like the baobab tree. They are being protected because they are being considered as tree of gods. So now that Christianity is pose a very great danger to some of these customs that help protect nature, it help protect the land, the ecosystem, the ecological system. So what is the place of Africa? How can Christianity, in your opinion, how can we incorporate some of these customs that are vital to the survival of our community?
Well, I don't think you should blame Christianity for the change or for the lack of preservation of the African culture. I think we should rather blame civilization, because most people who cut trees in Africa, they are not cutting trees because they want to serve God, or they want to go to church, or because they are Christians. They are cutting trees because they want to do business. So that is part of the price for civilization, or of civilization that Africa has to pay. It is the Christians or Christianity that brought civilization to Africa, or the modern civilization at least. And even the civilization that we have right now, it is a European. It is Christian civilization. Madam Moisha, water. It is Europe. It is Christian civilization. So the civilization that we are all enjoying here in Europe and all over the world is Christian civilization. So, but Christianity is in fact against superstition, and Christianity does not promote superstition. Why is Christianity against superstition? Because there are a lot of things that you have referred to now. Like, for example, the snake that the local people, the Africans, will not kill because it's based on superstition. That's why Christians will be against it, not because of its ecological consequences. Now, Christians will be against superstition, and that's why they will kill the, whatever, if the tree, they will cut down the tree if the tree is being regarded as a worship object. So how do we deal with that, and how is that helping Africa? That looks like to be harming the African people and the African culture. Okay, now in that case, then we have to go back to the essence of superstition. Superstition itself is much more dangerous and much more harmful than the killing of the snake or the cutting down of the tree. Superstition, like, let's take the tree for example. Like a tree that is standing in the middle of the village, of the town, that you cannot cut. The problem Christians will have with that is not the fact that it is not being cut down. The Christian might not be interested in cutting down the tree or not cutting down the tree. So what Christianity is addressing is the question of the fact that people who are made in the image and likeness of God are now reducing their deity, their God nature, the nature of God in them, the deity of God in them. Man is the crown of creation, and man is the head of creation. Man is supposed to be over and rule over all of creation, including trees, animals, and snakes, and all those things. So when you have superstition like that, they begin to believe that the snakes, that you have to respect them, honor them, almost more than you are honoring yourself and you are honoring other human beings. And in that case, in the case of Africa, people worship them. They basically worship these snakes because it's a tradition. They worship these trees. So it is, and when you worship a creation instead of the creator, that is what Christianity is against, because it is what is called in Christianity as idolatry. Idolatry, it is making an idol of something that you are supposed to use or something that is supposed to be serving you. So animals, any kind of animal, they are supposed to be under the subordination of man. Trees are supposed to be serving the use of man. But when that thing, an object or a creation that, like trees or animals, that is supposed to serve the interests of man and God, is now being deitized and idolized and made to be reverend more than even God himself is reverend, then we tell people that no, you are of more value than any tree. No matter the tradition behind it and no matter the story behind it. So any human person is more valuable than those green snake. And any human person has more value than those trees as well. So human person has the image of God himself in himself. Man is made in God's image and likeness. So as a result of that, because the same thing in India, if you go to India today, people will not kill cows. Now you will see cows walking down the street. People don't have the right to kill and eat, but at the same time, in the same city of India, you will see people who are dying of hunger. They could have killed the cows and eaten and not die. But you will see people dying in the street of India, lying down in the street. Nobody giving them food, but there are a lot of cows that people are reverencing and respecting, honoring, more than the human being that is lying, because they believe that the human being has bad karma, so it does not deserve to be helped because it's coming from another. So the humanity, I mean the deity and the likeness of God in man does not in Christianity allow and permit the man to worship any creation whatsoever. Now that is just one aspect of why Christianity will not encourage superstition. The other aspect and the other reason why, because when you believe in superstition, you are reducing your humanity. When you believe in superstition, you are reducing the God in you. When you believe in superstition, you are bowing down to a creation rather than the creator. When you believe in superstition, you are putting down the crown and the glory that is put on you as the image and likeness of God. You are bowing down or removing it and putting it at the feet of creation. And the same thing people do when they worship money, or when they are after money, when they have so much reverence for money, more reverence for money than for human being or for God. It is the same idol worshiping. But that is just one aspect of superstition that God is against. Now, that Christianity is against. Now, the other aspect of superstition that Christianity is against is the fact that any superstition is founded on fear. All superstition is based on fear, and all superstition is fear connected. So, for example, the reason why those people will not cut down the tree or kill the snakes is because they know, or they've been told and brainwashed that there is a certain danger or consequence or a taboo that is attached to that action. So if they will go and kill the snake or do something that is against the tradition, against the superstition, people are living under the fear of something that is a mirage, something that is fictitious, something that is not real. It's a fiction. So people are living in, in fear of things that are not real. And when a man lives in fear, he lives in bondage. When a man lives in any form of fear, he doesn't enjoy the freedom that God has given to him from heaven. When as a matter of fact, the Bible says fear of man, or any kind of fear apart from the fear of God, puts people into a snare or into bondage. So fear is a limiting factor. For example, there are a lot of things that Africans are not doing because of the fear of some taboos. But you see that in the societies where fear has been eliminated, they are daring. They are able to experiment. They are able to try things or new things. And they are able to come up with innovations. They are able to discover things because they overcome their fear and they go and experiment and try out new adventures that will lead to new discoveries that leads to general good and to the general good of all men. For example, talking about that same thief people and the Benue and Niger River in Nigeria, you discover that it took the European Christians, people like Ajayi Crowther and Mango Park, to explore that and make the discovery and full report of those two rivers and be able to conquer them. And it is thanks to that we were able to they were able to get the source and know where it leads to, and be able to build that leads to building the bridge and be able to build the transport system and things like that. But the same thing, it led to us having airplane today because people have conquered fear. But if taboo had been holding people down, they would not have been able to dare, and they will not be daring, and we will not be having a lot of technological discovery that we're having today. So that is the second aspect, the reason why Christianity seems to be against superstition. There is another reason why Christianity is against superstition. The third reason why Christianity is against superstition is because Christianity is a faith that is based on truth rather than the spectacular. Now, there are spectacular things and miraculous things that are present in Christianity. And Christianity does believe in the miraculous, but Christianity doesn't follow those things. And Christianity is not, Christians are not supposed to be under the control of the supernatural or the miraculous or the spectacular, just like the Africans will be under the control of superstition. So superstition holds the African under its control. So the superstition have the lordship over the African. But in Christianity, miracles, signs, and wonders is not supposed to have dominion over the Christian. The Christian miracles and signs and wonders are supposed to follow the Christian. So we are not controlled and we are not held in bondage by those things. But the thing that holds Christians in bondage, or that holds Christians in reverence, or what Christians should hold in reverence and honor more than anything else, more than even the miraculous and the superficial things and supernatural things, is the truth, principles, truth. Because truth is what makes us to be able to navigate through the creation. Truth is what makes us to be able to understand laws. Truths are based on laws and principles. So it is thanks to truth that we are able to observe nature, and even atheists are able to come up with laws, scientific methods, and laws, empirical evidences and things like that. Those are all based on principles and truth. Mathematics is based on truth. Physics is based on truth, because 1 + 1 will always be true and will always be 2, and that is truth. You cannot do mathematics or make progress industrially or technically without observing the principle of truth. So truth is something that is unchanging, that is not under the power of any man, and that is independent of any man. So truth is what Christianity advocates for. And because truth is what directly influences life on earth and life in eternity, and because God himself is truth, that is why we rather teach people in Africa the principle of abiding by truth and getting to know truth through education, getting to know truth through mathematics, getting to know truth through physics, getting to know truth about nature instead of worshiping the nature. So if, for example, in that village, if people will do scientific research and do laboratory experiments concerning those snakes, they will discover that there is nothing about them. And there is nothing for them to be burying them like that, or honoring them, or allowing them to walk anywhere and do anything. Truth will, the scientific evidence will reveal the truth, and they will know that that is not the truth. What they have believed in is just a superstition that they have come to believe in. But when it comes to superstition, truth is the only other alternative to superstition. Truth will preserve the same animals just like superstition will preserve them. But the only difference is that superstition comes with fear and the fear of consequences, where truth comes with liberation. Because you are explained to. So we can explain to the African people why it is good to keep the nature and the harmony of the ecology and man and the environment and man. So if through education we teach truth about ecology, that will set people, that will also preserve the nature as much as superstition, but not with the cost and the expenses of being limited or not daring and fear and putting humans in subjection to superstition. So truth is a better alternative that Christianity proposes rather than superstition. So we don't rely on superstition to keep our nature. We don't rely on superstition to keep trees and the ecology. We should rather rely on truth and teach people about the need for ecology. Why we need why we need to keep what the trees add to humans. and human existence. They are zones of the zones area of the desert that needs to be preserved so that we don't have the calamity and the global warming and the because of falling trees or destroying trees. Some of the problem we're having in Benue itself, that's why we're having it, because the Hausa Fulani herdsmen, they have to rear their cattle downward and down to the south the more, because they are running away from the desert. And the reason for that is because there are not enough grain and trees in the north, so be able to keep the Amazon area forested. So deforestation is being destroyed, and when that is, it will affect also the food production. It will affect not just the feed for the animal, but for humans as well. And so we just need understanding and knowledge, and which is truth. So knowledge, understanding, and which are areas of truth, they are much more superior to, in my mind, and that's what the alternative that Christianity proposes. I think that is a better way to actually manage both the fears and the concerns of our African intellectuals and the agnostics and the atheists that think that Christianity destroys our culture because it destroys our superstition. Now, yes, superstitions had their place because people needed to pass across to the future generation some truth that they have discovered. They needed to, and some of the only way that they knew to do that was through oral practice, because there was no written, culture of writing, truth and education as a formal one like we have now, or books to preserve those things. So at that point, when superstitions were being developed, there was a reason for it. But now that we are evolving and we are moving forward as civilization, and we could just find alternative that will fulfill the same goals, but with less loss, expenses or casualties, I would say.
Okay, it's really interesting. Your presentation, your argument is really fascinating. I wouldn't want to believe that your point is completely antinomic to the argument of the Bible, because you keep employing the word truth, which is very interesting and fascinating, because if I understand clearly, the Bible there's no evidence. We're only made to work on belief, or just believe. There's no evidence to the Bible. So I will add a few points to that, and I would like you to address that. I would like you to place that correlation between the belief and the truth, because I would like to recommend the series you made to people that are listening right now. I would like to recommend a series you made about truth some months ago. I would like to recommend it for them to go and study that, or probably if you would like to add more light to it now, to see the correlation between the belief system and the truth you're trying to say in these systems, because I know many people will be confused about you employing this word truth that you keep saying. So in addition to that, in the book of Numbers, chapter 21, verse 9, during the Exodus of the children of Israel, actually, there was a time the children of Israel, they were disobedient to God. So what happened is that plague fell upon them. They were sick, they started falling sick, and there were snakes, vipers that were biting them, and they were dying. So Moses actually was instructed by God to make a bronze snake, a statue of a bronze snake. And he told the children of Israel that anyone who looked at this bronze statue will be saved. Those that were stubborn, they refused to take their head to look at the bronze statue. They died of that snake bite. And those that looked at it were saved. So many of us are made to believe today that actually that statue was in the form of a cross, that it gave an example of Jesus Christ, you looking up to the Jesus Christ. But here is an example of a superstitious system in the Bible where humans are being required to look at the statues for them to be saved. So this is another example in the Bible. So there's another aspect again to these customs. Like you said about the fear that superstition build in people's mind. I totally agree with you on that. We have to do away with that fear factor that it works in our mind. Okay. Another example of custom that is Christianity is destroying Africa right now.
No, I'm sorry, sir. Before you continue, may I make comment on that snake situation?
Okay.
Okay. The situation, the argument you just presented about the snake that Moses, raised in the wilderness is totally different from superstition, sir. I would like to submit that is not the superstition. It is a miracle. There's a difference between miracle and superstition. Now, superstition is a belief system that you observe and that you know that if you break it and violate it, you will have consequences. Superstition is more of a cultural belief or some, empirical belief that you believe, hold on to, that you must never, it's a line that you must never cross. Or something that you believe in, not because there are any evidences of it. So there's another aspect of superstition, which is you believe on it, but it has not been scientifically verified or certified by fact. Now, but the example you just narrated is an example of, is a situation whereby an instruction was given. That is what I'm trying to fight with our people, with the Christian leaders in Nigeria, because they are all coming with prophetic utterances, making statements and giving people assurance that they are going to have results. So now, if they are really miracle workers, we must be able to see those results they promise. But then they say, oh, you don't have faith. That's why you didn't have results. For example, one of them was saying to to a whole congregation that you can give a seed, some money, what they call money seed, and when you give that money to them, that you have any miracle you are expecting in 24 hours. So it's called 24 hours miracle. In some other places, it could be called 72 hours miracle. So they tell you will have miracle if you do this. But then people give their money and then go home. But nobody stops after 24 hours and says, okay, it's now 24 hours. Well, nothing has happened. You lied to me. You duped me. You duped me. But in this case, that's why I'm saying that's not Christianity. That is fraud. What those pastors are practicing is fraudulent. It is fraud. It's not Christianity. When in Christianity, the God of the Bible, he affirms and he confirms any word that he says. For example, in this case, it says, if because of this plague you are having, raise up that snake, and it's not superstition. I want to prove that it's not superstition. Raise up the snake, and anybody that will look unto it, you will be delivered. You will be healed. Now, did it happen? It happened. People who didn't look unto it, they didn't get healed, they died. But people who did look unto it, they got healed. It's an historical fact. But then later on, the children of Israel remembered that occasion and those miracles that happened and tried to revert back to it and try to do something similar when they put up the golden calf, that we are going to build to also have further miracles like that. And then God was angry at them, because even though God allowed that particular miracle to happen that time, but it would not allow them to turn it into a superstition. It will not allow them to turn it into a belief system whereby they will say, okay, anytime we are in danger, whenever, okay, we are now having, even not anytime we are in danger, to put it in a superstition that, okay, we are now having this thing, it will never be touched. You must always be going there to get your problems solved. Then it would have been a superstition. Okay. But in Christianity, God does not encourage superstition.
Okay, I gave that example because yes, what you say, it's totally clear, but I give the example because you gave an example of deifying an object, deifying the creation, not the creator. That was why I gave the example. And secondly, in addition to that, I would like you to address them collectively, because 100 years ago, we have example in Africa of this is debatable. This fact I'm about to give is debatable. We can refute it, we can argue about it. But we also agree that in some part of Africa, that wearing of clothes came into existence fully to cover your body from head to toe properly, came into existence in Africa not quite long ago. Some part of Africa, we are actually wearing full clothes, like the Yoruba and textile system that was already a long tradition, but it was reserved for the royal family and the Soto people, the Kosa people, and the Zulus, those parts of South Africa. And we can also see their style of dressing, that they were almost dressed half naked. The ladies are just covered with just some little skin. The men too, and some of the people are dressed almost half naked. Let's assume that before they started getting dressed properly, when Christianity is saying you have to cover your body. But we also observe that in those days, actually, they marry some of these ladies, some of these young women as virgins. And some of those men, the men respect this custom with the whole of their heart. The man in the community, even though he sees the lady that is half naked walking around with her chest open, he doesn't get attracted to her sexually. He sees her as somebody's wife and respect that custom. So that custom remains ingrained in their mind. This time around, there's no superstition attached to it. It's a custom that everyone has to observe. They respected this custom, and you will grow up as a child. They will tell you this will be your wife. You grow up together and get married to each other. So now Christianity came into place and replaced these customs. Many people believe it. So instead of having more people that are more chaste, instead of seeing more chastity, we see retrogression. People are even becoming, the sexuality is banal. People don't, Africans in general, don't even respect this Christianity. The pastors, the bishops, the plenty people, the prophet, whatsoever they call them, are sleeping with their church members. So they no longer fear Christianity, but they valued their customs. So this is a case where we don't have superstition attached to it. So the custom is there, but Christianity has actually, the Christianity didn't even help in this community, in this case. So what can we do? How can we bring back this value? How can we incorporate this system into our mind?
Okay. The sexual sanctity that existed in Africa before Christianity is more illusional than realistic, or than something that is practicable today. And the reason is because if you go to any of those villages 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago, yes, people will be walking almost naked, but they were marrying at the age of 13, sleeping with each other, getting married at the age of 14, 13, 16, no school. So if you're going to talk, some of the things that you are challenging Christianity on are actually civilization again. They are signs of civilization, but since Christianity brought civilization, so we will take responsibility for that. But what I'm about to say is that even in those villages in African, almost all African cultures practice polygamy. So even though he will not sleep with the girl before marrying her, but a man that is already 60 years old or 40 years old will see a 14-year-old girl and maybe not sleep with her outrightly, but he will go and take her to become the second wife or third wife or fourth wife or 20th wife. But then, is that better than what Christianity proposed? What Christianity brought is one man, one wife. And even though there might be cases of immorality, but at least there is, because what polygamy does is that if one man is entitled to marry two women, it means the woman in the essence of her as a human being, she is less of a woman. She's less of a human. So it means that I, as one man, I can have two women as my wife. So my worth and my value is much more higher than, it's like they are properties that are obtained. It's not like I'm honoring a wife and another human being as equal to me. We are equal. I am one person, she is one person. The same person equal to me with the same right. I don't have the right to put her down and take the second one and say, you know, I own this one and this one. So you know, and that is what you used to have in Africa. A man will look at women just like he will look at his cattle, because he has, some of them will say, before Europeans came and before Christianity came, you know, the more cattle you have, the richer you are, and the richer you are leads to you having the more wives. So you possess cattle, you possess wives, just like you possess cattle. So it's like the man that has 3 wives, 4 wives, 5 wives is richer than the man that has 1 wife, because it's a status thing, and it's like buying a car. Okay, who can sustain 10 cars? Is the person that can have more money to buy 10 cars and sustain them that is richer. So it's, you know, to some extent, a lot of Africans are still treating women like that. You know, some of them even respect their cattle more than their wives. So that humanity aspect that the Christianity brought, you know, is one great advantage that we could credit to Christianity. That Christianity raised the value of woman to be the same as the value of man, and that she's not a property, and that she's not something to be owned, and she's not something to be bought. She is the same person of equal value in substance and in everything as the man. And so I don't have the right as a man to be marrying 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, and to be compiling them. Yes, I might not be perfect in my sexuality or sexual sanctity, but at least I am not treating other women as if I could just possess them. I'm not possessing them. So the human failure that men have today, it's recorded everywhere. You know, this human failure of adultery, and God doesn't sanction, I mean, God doesn't permit it. God doesn't allow for it. If that Bible does not permit for adultery, that's why it's written in the 10 Commandments, it's one of the sins. So in Christianity, adultery is a sin. Now, the fact that people are not able to cope with it, but that's not just in Christianity. In every culture, people struggle with Christianity, I mean, with adultery. And not just, you know, African, European culture, but African culture too. Even though, you know, we would think that all women remain virgins, maybe the young ones were, but there was still adultery prevalent in African culture. There were issues and instances of, you know, richer people taking up the wives of other, you know, poorer men and poorer people in Africa, and that was prevalent too. And they will not just sleep with her, but take her over outrightly. So those things were also common in Africa. So the question of unfaithfulness or sexuality is a question of humanity as a whole, because that is telling us about human frailty, that all human beings are having some desires and some frailties that they cannot all cope up with by themselves, no matter how great they are or how believing they are. I think God allows that to remain in all humans just for that, so that we will know that we are not God by ourselves yet. We still need God that can forgive our sins, that can, you know, that we could ask for forgiveness, that we need to bow down to and admit that we are just human with all our challenges and weaknesses. But it's not something that is elusive or exclusive to Christianity only.
Okay, all right. I guess that's an interesting point too. You try to see other bad aspect of it, but it's okay. In my place, like I can testify from where I grew up in my local village, that has been the case until recently. Even recently, we know that we left in 2014. Not 2014. We traveled with my family because we used to go to Sapele, Benin, for Christmas camp for convention, church convention. So we travel and spend 2 weeks there. We leave Abuja just a few minutes. Once we are out of Abuja, after reaching Benin, I thought I was in another country because the lifestyle there was totally different from the north. Our ladies are more chastised. They dress properly. We do not see display of sexuality. They are very, very reserved. I can give an example of a lady that is up to 29, 30 and still a virgin of an auntie. So I grew up seeing this culture being practiced. I grew up seeing people really, really valuing this thing. That was why I gave that example. And that the issue of rape, to the extent that some languages even don't have that word rape because they do not understand the concept of rape. In my language, Alago, which actually happens to be Idoma.
No. The fact that they don't have a word for it doesn't mean that it didn't exist. It existed, but the way it was treated in the African tradition is similar to the way it was treated in the Bible. What they said is that if a young man, sleeps with a virgin or with a woman that is not married to, he should go to the parents. They should go to the parents and do the traditional rites, and the person becomes the wife. So that doesn't mean that men never committed rape, but it is only because of the civilization that we have today that people criminalize those kind of things. Do you know that there are some cultures whereby young girls are actually stolen? You know, they capture her, kidnap her, and she becomes a wife. And yeah, there are cultures like that, and they don't regard that as rape because the culture has accepted it. Is it what the culture? Huh?
The Fulani culture.
Yeah. So what the culture has accepted has become part of the culture. It's not criminalized. The fact that it's not criminalized doesn't mean that it was never there. They used to just marry them. That's just the difference.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much for that explanation. I hope people are getting it. It's really interesting. So I came to Europe recently, and I never developed that culture of African pride. I never developed that pride of my culture to the extent that I saw the Oba of the Yoruba, the Oni of Yoruba, the entire Oni of Yoruba. He came to Europe. He came to the UK, and then he went on and was speaking English. He spoke English, and he went on to the church and started singing a song and say, "Jesus is my father, he will never fail me." That was the song he was singing. And I saw this event unfold. I was ashamed because the Oba, the Oni, has a responsibility to preserve the African culture. He has a responsibility to protect the African culture. For instance, the Prime Minister, the President of China, traveled abroad. He doesn't, even though probably he knows how to speak English, he doesn't speak English, he speaks Chinese, and somebody has to interpret. There is an aura, there is an energy, there is a strength, there is this sense of cultural pride that comes with it. When you speak your language, you represent your language. The European man is not proud to speak African language, but the African man is proud to speak the European language. So here we are. I traveled to Europe and I've seen all these things. I've never valued my culture, I've never valued my language in Africa until I came back to Europe, until I traveled to a museum in Paris. They call it Musée d'Appé. Some people can Google it to see. There are a lot of African artifacts here. Even the bronze face, the queen in the Benin Kingdom, the bronze face, one of the famous face bronze that they picked up, one of the masks that they use so much. They have expensive display. And most tourists that come there are Chinese people. They come to visit the African Museum. They come to see some of this artwork. And they pay huge amount of money to watch some of these things. But currently in Africa, churches and pastors, they go to shrines, they visit places, they don't preserve some of these things, they go and destroy them, they burn them. They burn some of those expensive artwork that are there, that people in Europe, they put them in fine glasses, they set up light to protect them and commercialize it and make people to have money into it. So what can you say in this case to African Christians? What can they do to take away that fear from venerating this object to seeing them as something that you can actually use to commercialize it, to use to attract tourists, to create a museum, set the standard to protect your culture? What can you say about it?
That is a bigger challenge for me because it's something I cannot deny that Christians will rather go into a shrine and destroy the artifacts but I would like you to know that when Christians do that, they are not seeing those things as artifacts. They are seeing those things, they are not seeing them as artworks. They are seeing them rather as idols or objects of worship, and something that is having some spiritual consequences or some spiritual powers, most likely negative. So, but that is going to be a challenge. You are talking right now about Europeans who have gone through Reformation and Europeans who have been able to evolve through, Renaissance, and Europeans who have been able to use philosophy to modernize their mind and to separate and segregate their minds from religiosity. I will not defend. Will I say that is Christianity? I would not absolutely say it is what Christianity advocates for, but it is what Christians practice, especially in Africa. I think I would rather address this question by telling you what I'm doing and what I'm working on in that sense, and what I am going to do. I'm working on it already. I have decided to start with my culture, my Yoruba culture, and I know that I'm going to face a very, very big backlash, both from the Christian community and from my Yoruba people, but especially from the Christian community. I think you're right that the most attack I will have will probably come from my fellow Christians, because what I want to do, this is one of my projects. This is just one of my projects. And even by saying it now, I'm afraid some people will still misunderstand me and still begin to attack me. But let me just let you know, because you are an inquisitive mind, and you've asked a question that I think is important, but people might think it's not so important. Right now, in Yoruba language, we almost don't have poetry. And the reason we are not having poetry is because even though I think we are richer in poetry than the English language actually, but we are not practicing or even recognizing. We don't even recognize our poetry. I'm sure there will be no faculty or department of Yoruba poetry in any Nigerian university. And the reason for that is because we think that those poetry that are the way they are being rendered in the Yoruba language, and I think the same thing with other languages, but with Yoruba language is demonic or satanic or fetish. That is the way our Christian community today will see that. So, for example, what I plan to to embark on when I get to Nigeria is to bring a revolution to the Yoruba culture. So how would that revolution look like? Number one, I'm going to approach the Yoruba culture. Right now, everything is mixed up. Yoruba culture, Yoruba religion, poetry, literature, medicine. So what I want, and philosophy. So what I want to do is that I want to set up an institute, research institute, that will study Yoruba culture, and I will have departments for them. Because being a Yoruba person, the more I know about Yoruba itself now, I know enough to know that Yoruba culture and religion is mixed up with Yoruba poetry. So I want to separate the spiritual aspect, spirituality, religion from poetry. So for example, if you know Yoruba religion is called Ifa. So if you are doing Ifa, you must be reciting some poetry. And we call it, but in Nigeria is regarded is seen only as incantation. And the reason it is seen as incantation is because it has some spiritual consequences. So what I want to do, therefore, is to teach people and come up with an idea of letting our religious people know that even though I'm a Christian, I don't want to divorce my Christianity from my native culture anymore. So far, right now, the way Christianity is being practiced in Nigeria is as if Yoruba culture cannot have anything to do with the worship of God of Christianity. And as if Yoruba poetry cannot have a place with, in the active practice of Christianity. And also as if Yoruba philosophy cannot have a place for Christians. So what I'm thinking of doing is set up this institute with different departments. One of the departments is going to be a department that's going to be responsible for segregation of the Yoruba poetry from Yoruba religion. That is one. So that we'll have Yoruba religion as a distinct thing, as a distinct entity on its own. That we know this is Yoruba religion, Ifa is alone. But we must also be able to extract the poetic aspect of that culture and make it into an institution. So I want us to promote and build an institution around the Yoruba poetry and literature, especially poetry. So that is one aspect of Yoruba reformation that I want. I want to bring about reformation to the Yoruba language and Yoruba culture. Number two thing that I plan to do for Yoruba, and once I do it for Yoruba, I want to do it in other languages too, of Africa. But the number, apart from this institute, the Department of Literature and Poetry, I want to also have another department that is going to be in that same institute, a department for extracting and separation between the Yoruba culture, religion, and Yoruba philosophy. Right now, there is no African philosophy. There is no Yoruba philosophy. The African philosophers we have are the philosophers that are writing in English language. So there are no indigenous philosophers there is nothing like Yoruba philosophy, nothing like Igbo philosophy. So I believe that we have so much philosophy imbibed in the Yoruba language and in Yoruba culture. I see philosophy there very clearly. And I want to be able to extract philosophy from our religion and separate the two. For example, if you do what they call, right now, everything is being called incantation, or is being called some things like that. But if I say the things, for example, somebody could say, very wise philosophical thoughts, or a lot of deep philosophical, and somebody could tell you, for example, green leaves don't grow on dry trees. And because green leaves don't grow on dry leaves, they are making logical conclusion. I therefore say, you will never be dry, you will ever be green. Something like that. So, but that's a philosophical something there. But this is just elementary. I'm just coming up with it. But there are a lot of deep philosophical thoughts in Yoruba language, and especially in Yoruba incantations right now, or religion or culture, that is all mixed up, jammed into religion, and everything looks fetish. So I want to be able to create that separation so that people will see literature separate from religion, and people will see philosophy separate from religion. Now, the next thing I want to do with my culture is that I want to introduce in Yoruba language and culture, I want to introduce from Yoruba language and culture, especially from Yoruba religion. I want to build a partnership with the herbalists and the witch doctors. Now, the herbalists, the problem with the Christianity, and I think missionaries had with Africa and African culture, African religion, is that they don't understand that these African herbalists, or what they call, black magic, or African herbalists, or African witch doctors, that we just Christianity. Or I think this is because most of these people are foreigners. It is easier for them to just condemn everything as fetish and occultic and evil. But being a Yoruba person myself, and growing up in a Yoruba family, in a Yoruba home, I see now, for example, I know my own grandfather was a herbalist. Now, but the way it was told us was like it was fetish. It was a juju master or juju witch doctor. But right now, I'm with my maturity and education and exposure to the world, I've come to discover that no, yes, there is an aspect of religion, maybe magic, an aspect of religion and African religion, maybe evil or spirits or something spiritual dimension in what they practice, in what the herbalists practice, but it is not totally magic or spiritual in that sense. But there's a lot of knowledge also based in it, especially medicinal knowledge. So what I'm talking about is that the herbalists, most of them are knowledgeable people in the area of herbs and in the area of leaves and in the area of medicine, local medicine, without mixing it together with some, celestial or some spiritual or diabolical thing. Nothing diabolical in knowing your craft. So what I want to do right now is to make sure that institution, or maybe we might have another institution, whereby we will learn. And we will learn to separate the superstition, and we would like to separate the diabolical or the evil or the spiritual from herbalist. Juju master or juju priest is not just a juju priest to a large extent. To a large extent, is a herbalist. And what does a herbalist mean? It means that he knows what particular herbs, leaves, or plant will be relevant and be beneficial in the curing of for all kinds of medicinal purposes. So what I want to do is to put that apart. To be able to talk to these herbalists, we will listen to them and learn from them. And then, for example, we will ask them, what do you use to cure diabetes? So they will come up with their leaves and herbs. Then we will take those leaves and herbs to sophisticated, and I want to build sophisticated laboratories. So these laboratories will now examine all those herbs they recommend to us without their incantation and without their prayers involved, just the elements of the herb and the leaves. So when we take them to the laboratories, and we'll be able to see the healing factors and the elements and the substance of those leaves, why are they getting results? Because we will not say that these herbalists are not getting results. A lot of them are getting results using the herbs and using the leaves. So the combination of leaves, we are going to do scientific. So what I'm trying to say is that we will go to try to use science, the modern science, to extract the riches and the wisdom of the African people to create a new lineage of medicine to the world, because all medicine is coming from leaves. All medicine, even European medicine, is coming from leaves and herbs.
Yes.
Because that's how God created it. But in Africa, we demonized it and we criminalize it. And we say they cannot be used, they cannot be touched, it is evil. So, but that is an industry on its own. Pharmaceutical industry is one of the biggest and one of the most richest industries in any country. In America, pharmaceutical industry is one of the biggest industry. So I am thinking we need to develop an alternative African medicinal pharmaceutical industry that will come from the knowledge of our fathers and from the knowledge that the herbalists have, and then use the modern technology and the modern laboratory and scientific discovery to actually test all those leaves and come up with solutions to even all these diseases that are incurable today, like cancer, like diabetes, like other things. I'm sure they are curable. Only the reason why God is not allowed them to be cured is because we are only exposed to the natural wealth and knowledge that God gives to the Western world. And God, in his own wisdom, will not put everything in the Western world. So some of the things that are unsolvable, some of the issues and problems that are unsolvable, they are in that part of the world that has not been explored yet. And I think that is Africa. I think that Africa has the key to the cure and the healing and all the solution to a lot of other world issues, global issues that the African wisdom had not been demanded for yet. Because it's a world that has to contribute, that has to have the contribution of, that has to have the contribution of everybody. So we need the contribution of Africa, and until the contribution of Africa comes to the table to address the issues of medicine, the issues of philosophy, the issues of human soundness, and all other issues like that, until the wisdom of Africa and the plants of Africa and the things that God has put in Africa is brought to the table, to the discussion table, and to the world stage to become solutions, we might never be able to get into any solution otherwise.
Wow. Well, I'm really, really impressed and super happy to hear you say this, because it's very important to me. In fact, you actually address almost, because we have 5 questions, I first ask you 1 question, at least you almost address almost the 3 questions by mentioning, because the question ranges from art, first of all, then the philosophy and poetry, because this is the cultural aspect. I pick them up and say, okay, I'll ask you questions. What do you think about the African poetry? Where do we find a place? So you already addressed that already, which makes me to be very, very happy. And in addition to that, to this thing you propose, to this medicine stuff, I see the perfect example of what the Chinese people are doing actually. This same thing you said, they have this thing they call the acupuncture they do back in China. Is a traditional healing system that they do. They tell you that the state of your mind determines the state of your body. So, and also I had this experience with my grandfather, who happens to be a king, a local king in a village, and he knows some of these herbs perfectly well, and he provides herbs to people, mostly men that are suffering from dysfunction, erectile dysfunction, and people, a lot of things. He will just come. He has that knowledge in his mind. This is a man that he just went to primary, where he can read and write, just little school, those British days time school, where he can read and write properly, and speaks very good English, even more than me, that you have to go through secondary school and all those things. So he has this knowledge, but there's one thing he kept saying. He says something. He detests Western medicine, Panadol and all those things. He said, don't take them. He said that anything that you want to consume into your body should be like a food, because anything you consume would either make you grow fat or slim. Because the things you consume into your body determines the state of your body. So your medicine should be your food should be your medicine. That's what he always say. So he will bring some of these herbs. He say, take them. He always fight against this Western stuff. So I hope what you're proposing, actually, this laboratory, good stuff, getting these herbs, these roots, to find out their content, what they can provide, what part of the human body they can heal, to be able to develop them. I hope it's not going to become something else I hope it's not going to be transitioned into a system where they become chemicalized, because the Western medicine that is chemicalized now is actually causing harm to the human body instead of healing them. In most cases now these days. So in this example, I hope that it will not be an error, or you will just make it just really, really African tradition, that instead of waiting for people to be cured of a sickness, it will become part of their life. Instead of waiting to be cured, it will become health. Instead of let's say cure, we do practice what is prevention. Like instead of waiting for a mosquito to bite you, then you get the cure for the malaria. You actually find a way to eradicate the mosquito, reduce their reproduction system by taking away all the sewage, all the water, the stagnant water. So this system, this part that you address is really, really important, and I'm super happy to hear that you already have a plan on that. But still not satisfied yet with the preservation of art that you said. Like you said there'll be a provision in the museum and all those things. You try to make them to see the importance of all those things. And then you also say something about the extracting the spirituality, then giving the spirituality different position, and then giving the art a different position, giving the poetry a different position. I just hope that it will not be a mistake, because that is what actually holds that spirit. Because most of those people, those Ifa people that you see them recite some of those incantations, they actually tell them, a father will tell your son, that the son has a calling. They have a calling to become an Ifa, to continue with this lineage, to continue with this philosophy you're going to do. So they will tell you that you have a calling, and the son will believe it, that it has to do with some sort of spiritual stuff. So that is the key moving factor. That is the machine, that is the oil that moves this philosophy. So wouldn't it be dangerous if you separate these two? Won't the tradition be lost? Won't the motivation, won't that engine that is driving this philosophy, this project, wouldn't it be lost?
Very good. And that's exactly what is happening today. A lot of it is lost today because many people go to school and they go to Western schools, and where those things are not there, and they leave home and they just forget about those traditions, because these things cannot be driven by tradition only. And these things should not be left to tradition alone, and they should not be left to superstition or fear alone. So that leads, what you just said now leads me to the second part of my plan. The second part of my plan is not just to have a museum. I'm not just planning to have a museum, but I'm planning to make it comprehensive. I want to do a comprehensive reform in Yoruba culture, so that once I've been able to establish it through the Research Institute, and the Research Institute have been able to document and affirm and put all these things on empirical evidences and thorough scientific research, and using scientific method to verify and solidify the authenticity of the philosophy, of the poetry, of the medicine, of the pharmaceutical industry. Once we're able to scientifically affirm these things and have empirical evidences for them, what we are going to do is that I'm going to push, and I'm glad that I'm talking about this, because I'm not sure if my lifetime will be enough to do everything I'm planning to do, but at least I'm able to talk about it now. I want to push. I don't just want to discover these things and put them in a museum or in the institute, but I want to push for them, so that like for example, the philosophy will now become a subject in the schools. In all secondary schools, universities, people will study it professionally. So when you are studying something as a subject, primary, secondary, and university level, that's how you cement it. So it's more than tradition. So even if the tradition is dead, the subject remains. It will become a subject. The same thing I wanted to do concerning the medicine and pharmacy. The same thing I want us to do concerning poetry, literature, and all other things that I want to do with the Yoruba language. And then the artifacts and the art as well. It must be made reduced to educational course, whereby all those what we used to call the artifacts that we used to call idols and things like that will be extracted. So idols are separated and different from artifacts. We will tell them that no, they are work of art that must be studied as art and aesthetics and in the university. So we have museums for them, but more than that, we have literature for them. And we have people going to defend those courses in the school, in universities. And then we have people, teachers and educators coming out to teach those subjects. That is what the way I see.
All right, okay, that's interesting. So there is this other thing too. There's this other movement. There's this Rwandan traditional dance that you're doing. It's an imitation of a bird. They flip their shoulders in a certain movement of a wave. And most African dance step actually is an act, is a way of communicating to people. If you really sit down carefully and watch African traditional dance, for instance, let's say the Zulu dance, it depicts power, it depicts certain movement that if you're not even careful, you that you're watching, you'll be intimidated. Let's take example of Cecil Rhodes too, who came in and established Zimbabwe. They call it the Rhodesian system at the epoch. He noticed certain African art. The Rhodes Foundation today has an icon, a statue that they use to depict as an icon of his foundation. So this icon actually comes from the traditional Zimbabwean and arts that they have. And so they also have this beautiful dance move that speaks. They speak certain language to the people that are watching, the beauty, the energy in it. So the Europeans now make sure that they document some of their own traditional dance, some of their culture, some of their ballet dance, and all those things that they do. They make sure they commercialize it, they make it beautiful, they document them, they call it, they set up a studio, and then they call these people, they dance, they record them. But in Africa, we do not, and then they analyze why this person moved the leg in such a corner. Why do you turn your hand in such a position? Why do your body move in such a way? What is the meaning of your eyes looking the other direction? Why do you bend this way? And also these two people that are dying in pain, when they have a dance that they call it the cat dance, the tiger dance, they call it. They bend their body in such a way that if they ask you to do it for the first time, if you're not careful, you might even harm your spinal cord. Because they manipulate their body, they wind their body, so it's really, really, really spectacular watching their dance. So what can we do to preserve some of this dance step? What is your plan? What is your project? What is your plan to be able to bring out this project and probably make up a festival about it or a documentary about it to take it to the world so that people can see the beauty of the African dance? What is your plan?
I understand exactly what you're talking about. I have an experience in this, especially being a Yoruba person. Many people don't know that Yorubas have exactly the same thing. Even up to today, whenever I want to get myself encouraged, sometimes I go ahead and go and watch on TV. I actually, for the first, since I came to Russia, to Europe, I didn't, of course, just like you said, I didn't have any interest. Even since I became a Christian, I didn't have any interest in Yoruba or tradition or anything like that. But since I've been living here for over 30 years, I discovered that, there is a nostalgia in me that demanded for me to resurrect some of these things. So I especially went into the internet to look for this dance. And there is a particular dance in Yoruba culture that is called bata dance.
Yes.
Yeah, it has some movements, the same kind of movement, the leg movement, the body movement. For me, it's one of the most inspiring, the most inspirational dances in the world. I think that is one of the, in Europe here, they have ballet, they have, all these classical things. But I think this bata must be preserved in Nigeria and must become, I want to make it a part of my own cultural reality when I get to Africa. I want to, for example, people are now doing something, something very horrible that right now they are exporting from Africa. People moving their backside or something like that. That is a
twerk.
Yeah. Twerk. They call it twerk. That is horrible. That is just horrible. That is disgracing and diminishing the African man and making us to look just like. That's exactly what Europeans said about us. They say we are just sexual animals. and you know, that are just everything is sexual, dance is sexual, everything is sexual. But this thing that I'm talking about right now is not twerk. That twerk is, I think personally, I'm going to fight against it. When I get to Africa, I'm going to fight against that twerking. And especially with grown-up people, adult women. I mean, what are we teaching our children? People are just, anyway, forget about that meanwhile. I want to rather promote something like butter. And when you finish your questions, if you have finished your question, I will try, I have one that I'm going to prepare right now, one of these butter, so that people who are watching us will have an idea of what butter means. And maybe when you finish all your questions, then we could use this as, you know, as an example of what we are talking about, what butter is. And but many people, you know, like even the one I'm seeing right now on YouTube there, they are calling it appeasing Shango. That is, you know, they have mixed it, these dances, they have mixed them together with, you know, fetish, with deity, and with, you know, they made it religious, and with, no, wait and check which one is better. So, and, you know, so they have made them to look fetish. So when a Christian sees something like that, or Europeans see that something like that, that this dance is dedicated to what? To the god of Shango? No, Christians would definitely be discouraged, and Christians would not like to be involved with anything like that, because they are thinking, oh, we thought this is tradition, and we thought this is traditional dance. How come the deity, the god of Shango here, the god of thunder? So why are you doing? So that's the problem. So that's exactly what I was trying to talk about, that we have to separate between the two. We've got to separate between that, you know, our traditional dance, our traditional performance is an art. It's an art, and we've got to treat it like an art rather than a religious, you know, performance that chases all of that religions away. For example, if the Indians are going to present their films as a part of their religion, nobody is interested. Nobody is going to want to do it, but they do it as Indian film. So Indian, that is, nationality is different from religion. And that is one thing that I want to try to do. I want to present this dance as an art. I want to build a school for it. Just like people have schools here for ballet, for dances, things like that, and for, you know, classical music here. I want us to teach and introduce in schools, Yoruba schools, this dance, this bata. I'm an admirer of bata, and see the last one I sent you, and of that Nigerian traditional dance. Now, everybody, if anybody, I'm saying this for the first time to the whole world, if anybody hears me say that, they will say I'm fetish. They will say, we know. That's why he's doing what he's doing. Because that bata he's talking about is connected to Shango, is connected to Ifa, is connected to, that is who Pastor Sunday is. In fact, some people are shaking out right now when I began to talk about that. Because people don't understand that my own level of Christianity and my own is a personal walk with God. It's a relationship. It's not tradition. And that I'm matured enough to separate my faith, Christianity, and faith in the Lord Jesus Christ, and my walk with God with tradition. I mean, I'm able to separate it from tradition. So the fact that I still believe and I still wash and I enjoy my own traditional dance and cultural dance like that, even though some people think it is connected to, you know, fetish or, you know, whatever. But for me, it's not. For me, it is just tradition. Just like you were talking about the artifacts that are in the museum in Europe. They are just works of art. And in Africa, they will become like gods. So that's the difference. And but I want to, this is dance, thank you for mentioning that, because I never spoke about this openly or plainly before anybody, but it's part of my wealth and part of the thing that I want to bring to the level of, I want to institutionalize when I get to Nigeria.
Okay, that's thank you so much. It's actually leading us to the last question of the interview. You already addressed everything totally. You were almost going into answering the last question. It was all about, you made mention of the Bollywood, the Indian movie industry, because that's the final part of the cultural questions. So it's how we can incorporate this culture in our movies. That was the last part of the question. I don't know. I can see we don't have much time, but I don't know if you can touch on that briefly before we go.
Yes.
What are your plans?
Unfortunately, the movie industry in Nigeria now is being it's just copying, what is happening in America and things like that, and maybe, but it's not. They don't make it to be. Even though we have Yoruba language, Yoruba films, but they are more like the same thing they are doing in English, just with Yoruba language. But so I have a whole plan, another set of plan from our Nollywood and movie industry in Nigeria. Is a talk for another day, because I have a whole elaborate plan and strategy on, I don't want to talk about that right now because that would take a whole lot of time. But definitely culture and art is going to have its place there as well.
Okay, and in this plan of yours, is there any way to showcase the African art in form of science fiction, in form of animation for children? Is there any plan like that? Did he incorporate that? Animation for children and science fiction that would depict African art, that would match. For instance, the Chinese they have their martial art. What is being commercialized is in the film industry, they commercialize it, they make the Japanese are so good with this animation. So is there any place, did you have any project for the animation and science fiction into this production of films for the African art? Is it part of the project too?
Definitely, by the grace of God. That one I've not developed it yet. I was developing animation for my books, but while you are talking now, I thought about it that another aspect that I would like to do. I would like to do animation for our philosophy. Is our philosophy, and turn it into art, and turn it into and movie industry, depict it in movie industry, and depict it in animation as well. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for the time, for the opportunity. And I want to encourage our listeners and the viewers to rewatch again, leave their comment. We'll come back and see it. And I hope that you are blessed through this message. Leave your opinion. We'll go back and read it. Thank you so much, DSA.
Thank you. I would like, we are not going to go away now. I want to play a Bata, Yoruba Bata, what do you call it? Bata dance, music and dance, and for people to know what we are talking about. And I think it will be a good finish to this our discussion, because you have dedicated it to Africa, and so since it's all about Africa today and our culture, we are not just Christians, we are also Africans. So let's see a part of that African culture. I don't know if it's going to work out. I don't know what's happening with my team here. What's your problem? Sorry, guys. I think maybe you should be towards me meanwhile. for full screen. You stopped it.
Wow.
So what do you think?
Oh, this is just it.
Yes. Sorry. You go ahead and talk. What I say?
I'm ready.
Sorry, please. Yeah, what I say?
I'm currently with a team of dancers.
Okay.
And here we practice this song of this woman. They call her Umu Sangare.
Okay.
She's a Senegalese. Is a therapeutic dance. A sort of therapeutic. It's really it's some sort of hypnotizing song.
Yeah.
So it has to do with slow body movement. And then I discovered that the person that was leading us is a white man.
Oh.
This is African dance, and a white man is leading us. So these people, they cherish this dance you're seeing. They love it. Yeah. Anything, this dance, they pay huge amount of money to come and watch. So why can't we commercialize this thing? Why can't we market it, put it like art, present it in a more beautiful way for people to admire these things? That is how it's supposed to be. This is very beautiful. This is art.
You like it?
Yes, I love it.
And I think people should study it.
And I only get to develop this value when I left Africa. This is the craziest part of the whole thing. I only developed this value when I left Africa. I came to Europe. That was when I started admiring this our culture, this our dance. That was when I started seeing it differently. So I don't think people in Africa will be seeing it this way. They don't know that we have treasures. This is art, and people need to understand the importance of this thing.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, DSA.
Yeah, I think it was a great interview.
Thank you.
And yep. See you later today. We are coming on in 15 minutes time, everybody.
All right, okay. I say hi and thank you to the team, Mayowa and Julie and all the organizers.
Bye.
All right, bye.